Welcome to Redbeard and the Den of Tools. Howdy ho guys and gals, it's Red, your friendly neighborhood tool bear, back again here in the Den of Tools. And today we're tackling that myth, the age-old saying of, buy once, cry once, or you get what you pay for. That is, tool guys for ages, eons even, have been saying, just buy the best and be done with it. But is it really that simple? Is anything in life that simple? Well, we're here to put it to the test and find out for reals. And that we thought, what better than the old standby, the 10mm combination wrench. It's the one that gets reached for almost more often than anything else. It's the cornerstone of any good toolbox. So we got here a whole slew of combination wrenches. Everything from, we got Carlisle from Napa, Craftsman from Lowe's. We didn't get the Sears Lowe's because, honestly, I haven't seen that much in the difference in the way of the hand tools. We got Duralast from AutoZone, who scored really well in our ratchet comparison. We got the old gear wrench becoming the up-and-coming standard of the anti-tool truck crowd. Husky from Home Depot, Cobalt from Lowe's, Matco, Pittsburgh, the old Harbor Freights, the Blackhawk from Proto, SK Tools, Snap-on, of course, Sunex, Tecton, Williams, and, of course, Wright Tools. So what we did here is we did a whole series of different tests. We did some based off of specs, we did some based off of feels, and we did some based off of performance. And what we did was we broke out the old testing tools here. We measured and weighed everything. Got the digital micrometer out. Test everything from the headspace to the length of the tool, the width of the tool, and handles in the paw, if you will. And then we get more accurate, more scientific, if you will. We broke out the old digital torque meter there to give it a test to see how it handled as well, to get some real specs on just what you can or cannot do with these tools. I think you're going to be a little surprised at the end there. And just for fun, since we had it there, let's throw it through a little bit of torture test. And we took the Bauer impact wrench to it, 450 foot-pounds of torque, just to see how they would do. Well, without further ado, let's take a look at it, shall we? First test, gear wrench. See, the gear wrench has the little teeth there for biting. And 100, 200, 400, 437, and it does not want to release. Pittsburgh, 100, 200, 300, 365, Cobalt, 417, Matco, 'That was interesting. Alright, we're going to reset that. Matco, take 2. There you go. Carlisle. And it doesn't want to let go. That felt really sturdy in my hand. Wright Tools. Blackhawk by Proto. Yeah! 263. That's what you get for a short wrench. Duralast. $3.38. It cleaved. Attempt number 2. $3.53 and it let go. Mac Tools. $3.89. Nice tight grip. Craftsman. The new Craftsman at Lowe's. $3.48. Those short wrenches just don't give you much to hold on to. I'm worried about this one because it's so shallow. $3.84. And it doesn't want to go. Oh my gosh. Husky. $4.18. For its size, I was surprised about that. Tecton. Hold on. Hand's getting sore. $4.47. Didn't let go. Williams. $4.48, but it let go. I'm gonna give it a second round. This thing's shot. It's dead at this point. I just want to hold on. I think we opened it up there, if you can see. Nope. Interesting to know. Sunex. Two, three. Yeah. And lastly, King of the Hill. Snap-on. At $3.78. Not even close. Williams. Don't try this at home. Snap-on. SK open-ended. Gear wrench. Craftsman. Carlisle. Matco. Sunex. Last one, Harbor Freight. Well, there you have it. That was the pause on performance of these tools. But let's dive into the specs, shall we? As I said, the bear always likes his spreadsheets and whatnot. First off, we've got the specs here. Just going through the basic specs as we measure. We got length, handle width, box width, open width, handle height. I guess handle thickness would probably be a better term there. Box height, box size, open depth, and weight. Now I want to point out all of this is in inches except for the box size and the open end size because we're measuring how accurate it is to that 10 millimeter size that these are specified at. So again, we got Carlisle through Wright. These tools are they priced between under $3 to over $33, but we're not taking that into account here with any of the scores. Basically, you're going to get the total end score, and then you can figure out if it's worth the money that they're charging. So in length, Matco wins. It's the longest wrench. Now, none of these were technically stubby wrenches. They're all what they consider their standard baseline 10 millimeter combo wrench, even though like that Proto Blackhawk really comes in awfully small at 5.115, and the Matco at 6.771. But, you get more wrench for your money, I guess, with that. Or maybe you don't. Handle width, the SK comes in at a svelte 0.332. Good or bad, I don't know here. We're not making a judgment, but it does make it, if you're using it all day long, it's going to make it easier to use. It's more nimble in your fingers. I'd say it's great if you're like working on electronics. Man, if you're doing diesel stuff, maybe you want something bigger. Box width. Now, this is basically we're measuring here how big it is so you can take into account how much clearance you're going to have. And again, the SK is going to come in at or at least going to win at 0.566. Now, the open end width, the gear wrench actually takes that with the small size at 0.758. Handle height, which is how thick the handle actually is, laying outside, and Proto comes in at 0.133. Now, of course, it being one of the smaller, if not the smallest wrench there, that's not surprising. Box height. Now, this is how high the end of the box is there, again, for clearance, issues. And that is 0.233 going to the Mac. On the open end height, the Williams takes it at 0.191. Now, the box size and the open size, again, this is for accuracy at that 10 millimeter size. And number one is Snap-on for the box size at 10.51. I'll admit, this was really tricky to measure. It's a 12-point, box in there. You're trying to measure basically from point to point, or, I guess the lands versus the grooves, if you want to go with that kind of terminology. So I got as accurate as possible. I do think the Snap-on was the most accurate one of them, but give or take here. On the open size, this is much easier to measure, and the Wright comes in at 10.02. Real snug fit there. On the open depth, which is how deep, you can get into that, the bolt there, and this is really kind of hard to guess, or not guess so much value, if I should say. The SK was very shallow. They're coming in the smallest, which means you're going to have more clearance and such, but also less grip, almost to the point where you feel like you didn't have enough. But anyway, it takes it at 0.357. And then as far as weight, of course, the Proto Blackhawk, the lightweight one's going to come in at 1.4. Now, let's talk about, so we convert these all to scores, basically. Again, you may say, well, I would weight this or this. I'm not here to sit there and tell you what's absolutely the best. I'm just giving you the data. You make up what works out for you, because that's what we always say is use the best tool for the job and also the right tool that works for you. Now, with all the averages, though, and everything, the SK does come in taking the average score, highest or lowest average score, I guess we're doing golf kind of standards here, at 3.64. Next up is the very subjective tests, okay? Don't beat on the bear. This is subjective, it's how the the Ursine family looks at it. And what we got here is feel. How does it feel on the paw? And the SK, as I said, if you're doing a lot of stuff all day long, it's very nimble. But again, that kind of is a takeaway if you're doing some really heavy end kind of stuff. But we did throw it to the SK for that. Now, the Snap-on was real close. I was really surprised how well I liked the Snap-on. Now, how I did this was I put these all in a bag and did this blind testing, if you will, and then sorted them by which one I liked better. Went through all of them, and that's how they came out. So this was tried to make it as non-biased, if subjective as possible. Now, fit and finish. This was, this you got to look at them to take a look at it. But we looked at everything from how smooth the chrome is, and some of these don't have a chrome; they have a brush look. But even then, there's different types of brush look. There's a very even, nice, stylized brush look, and then there's just like, hey, we ran it through a tumbler and we didn't worry about polishing it. The SK wins with the best overall look. It's just a fine looking tool. Number 2 on there is the Matco. Matco was an excellent looking tool also, and then Snap-on coming in and rounding up in the 3rd. I'll say the real disappointment here was the Craftsman. The Craftsman has, I've been a big fan of Craftsman, ever since I was a cub growing up. This thing was horrible, and worst of all, it feels like it came out of the press, the forge, and they didn't finish it because every single edge on this thing was sharp. You had to worry about cutting your paws on it, and every time you turned it and used it, definitely want to use a glove when using this thing, or throw it through a tumbler or something. Oh my gosh. Now, legibility. Again, very subjective here, but what I did was I basically laid every wrench down in a bunch of different angles and then glanced over to see which one popped up the easiest. And the Duralast popped up in first, the gear wrench popped up in second. I think a lot of that is because they put that little 10mm stamp right at the head of the open end, and that flat surface with the chrome background, it really pops out, makes it easy to see. The Snap-on came in at 3rd. A lot of them were really easy to see. Some of them not so much. The Williams, with their weird, they put this line, it's a real fat kind of handle, then this indented line down the center kind of warps all the text. It makes it hard to see. Anyway, the angle, this is how steep an angle the box end deviates from the handle. And now this could again be subjective, but the one with the steepest angle was the Cobalt, and the one that was the lowest angle was the Craftsman. I like a higher angle. I got big paws, and that gets my knuckles away from anything that's gonna scrape and scuff them. And got to keep those paws looking pretty for the misses. Dodgeability. This is, basically how, when you're having those moments and you're just frustrated at the Cubs and you need to wing something across the shop, how likely are they going to be able to dodge this thing? And the Williams does have the best throwing ability to it, I have to say. Now, ease of purchase, that's a whole nother matter. Ease of purchase goes into how easy is it to get your paws on this thing. And the real factor there is, it's subjective. So like the Tecton makes it really easy because you can buy it right on their website. They give you that nice 10% cash back, the free shipping, all that stuff. They're great website they have over there. On top of it, it's also on Amazon quite often as the the Amazon recommended tool, and there's a whole Tecton section on Amazon. Really easy to find exactly what you're looking for and have it at your doorstep 2 days later. To me, I'm a modern kind of bear. That makes it super easy. Now, some of you will say, well, the tool truck's easiest for me. Well, that's just because you happen to be in a particular instance where your tool truck shows up every week. Not everyone gets this. I'm out here in Livingston, Montana. Tool truck doesn't show up but maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. Some people, they don't get that. So just because it's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for everyone. And the internet's pretty much easy for anyone, let's be honest. Now, we did kind of rate these, though. Like, based on how many stores there are. There's, sure, there's like over 1,000 Harbor Freights. There's 2,200 Home Depots. There's 2,500, Lowe's. A lot of those stores out there. AutoZone, there's something like 6,000 locations. They're on every corner, let's be honest. They should just integrate with Starbucks at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Some of the harder ones to get a hold of were Williams and Wright. And it may not just be as far as hard to order it, but hard to find the right one. They don't make it easy to find this. So anyway, that's what goes into ease of purchase. Warranty, again, another highly subjective. I know you're going to try and tear up the bear in the comments here, but Tecton pulls this one out easy. You take a picture of it with your cell phone, you upload it to their website, and in 2 to 3 days on average, you got the tool replaced. I'm sorry, I know a lot of you are like, well, it's real super easy with Snap-on because I just hand it to the guy next time he comes around. Yeah, but that could be a week, 2 to 3 days. And you're always talking about, and that's the other thing. Then they're always talking about, well, I make money with these tools. Then how can you be without that tool for a week? That's what I don't understand. They're like, well, I don't want to drive to Harbor Freight for several miles. But you were just telling me how you make money with this tool. How can you be without that tool? Harbor Freight, one of the easiest returns. AutoZone, super easy return, and they're all over the place. Napa, if you saw my comparison of ratchets and where I cut the end off a ratchet and then tried to test them to see if they would take these things back, and Napa was the easiest. They were like, here you go, bud, and no paperwork, nothing, out the door. Super easy. Barely an inconvenience. And so anyway, that's how we did this, and we came up with Tecton there on the top of the warranty. Now performance. In performance, you saw in the video, we ranked it based almost specifically on how the hand torque, how high you were able to go up on it. And then if it slipped, if it came off, it got deducted by half. Because let's face it, having something slip, in all of these, they performed much worse after slipping also. They were obviously damaged at that point. Now the the Williams did get the highest score and felt excellent right up until it completely opened up on us. And here we go. Tecton again wins it because Tecton the Williams was at 448. The Tecton was at 447, and it did perfectly. Not a problem. All right, this comes down to our final score. Final score. And the final score is Husky. Who knew? Well, it's one of these things I always talk about where you don't have to be in first place to win. If you come in second or third and you're consistent all across the board, by the end of the season, you got the most leader points. Just because, somebody comes up, they're always in last, and then they win one. That has a tendency to happen a lot. They win one category, but they lose everything else. Now, I'm not saying that's all the case. SK scored really high in a lot of stuff. Tecton scored really high in a lot of stuff. But, as you can see, they come in different places. And if you look at the Husky, highest average score and one of the lowest prices, the second lowest price at $297. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the Husky. I used it, I thought it was fine, but there's nothing about the Husky that made me jump out and be like, hey, I really want to use this. The gear wrench was decent. I thought it was really decent. Not bad. At $1287, it's not a bad price. Tecton. I've said it for some time that I've been impressed with Tecton. Ever since, in fact, it was you guys who turned me onto it. You're the guys who reached out to me. It was the community that actually got me in touch and started talking to Tecton. That's it. I'm going to have a link to all these tools down below. And if you do use the link from Tecton, I am a Tecton affiliate now, so I do get a slight commission from those sales to help support the channel. But even before I was an affiliate and even before I was getting the Tecton tools, I started looking at them. You guys told me about them. I'm impressed. Duralast. I gotta say, I was disappointed in Duralast in the slippage. I was really happy with the look and the feel and how they had performed in the ratchet set. I liked the way this one looked and felt. Really disappointed that it let go. SK. I've been a huge fan of SK for the longest time. American-made tool, an alternative to the standard tool truck, showing that you don't have to spend every last dollar to get something with good performance. And it did great. I do think the tool is almost a little bit too on the light side. But if you're doing smaller stuff, and let's face it, 10 millimeter is fairly small, it's an excellent tool you could go all day with. Then the Carlisle from Napa at $729. What a great just average, we call it the 80-20 rule is what we think of it in the Bears house. And that is you get 80% of the performance for 20% of the price. Okay, this is maybe a little bit more than 20% of the price, but it's still that kind of best of averages kind of thing. And at $729 and if you're a mechanic, if you're a serious mechanic, and you're probably working someplace where Napa is nearby, why not go that route? The Cobalt from Lowe's, $598, excellent tool. I've been very happy with all the Cobalt stuff I have. And now that we've kind of seen what some of the stores look like after the Craftsman, inrush, the purge, as it were, we can still see that some of the, a lot of the basic Cobalt stuff is still there. Not as much as there was before. Most of it's gone online, but there's still a decent amount in store. Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. Nice middle. Let's be honest. This scored middle of the pack. It is the cheapest one there and scored higher than most of the other tool trucks. Would I use it every day? I'd rather not. But if I was on a budget, yeah, do it until you can afford something better. Mac, coming in right below it. A decent tool, didn't do too bad, but at $33, are you kidding me? How do you justify that price, that score? Look at all these options I have that are half or less than $33. This is why I say, guys, stay off the tool truck. Proto Blackhawk. Talk about the biggest letdown. I'd heard all this stuff about Proto. You need to check out Proto Blackhawk. That's the way to go. They sent me this little tiny wrench for $24 there. I was real disappointed in it. The Matco, oh, that was, again, they're the third rung of tool trucks and definitely showed even worse, even though their score is up there. $26, I can't justify it. The huge letdown, hey guys, it's Snap-on. You saw it, you saw the performance. It all comes down to the performance. It can look great, it can have all the right specs, but at the end of the day, it costs $33 and you saw how it performed. Do the test for yourself. Craftsman from Lowe's. Even at $748, I wouldn't buy it. I'm sorry, it's not a finished product. It really isn't. It's small, it's hard to use, and its performance was subpar. Sunex was something I was really disappointed in. I'd heard a lot of stuff about it. When I got it, I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't feel like the kind of product. It doesn't, like when I got the Tecton for the first time, I was wowed. I got the Sunex for the first time and I'm like, this looks like a cheap Chinese import. Wright tools, both Wright and Williams. Here's two tools that I'd heard, all these things about, that you need to try these. These things are great. And there they are. I mean, the prices weren't horrible considering what they are, but they really didn't perform the way that I was hoping that they would. Anyway, there you go. There you have it. There's your contenders. Why don't you comment down below and tell the bear what you liked. Tell them which one you think won, at price, performance, cost, all of that. Let me know what you think is the best wrench for your needs, because I'd really like to hear, and tell us like, hey, I'm a pro and I think this is what I like to use, or this is what I'm going to switch to, or I'm a DIYer and this is what I like or what I'm going to use. That's all the bear has for you. Thanks for sticking through it. I know it was a long slog through all the specs and details and stuff, but I've been really excited about doing these kind of tests and finally, putting that rumor to bed. Anyway, if you liked what you saw today, why don't you consider chomping the old like button? It's right down there, right down there. Give it a good chomp there. Consider subscribing and ringing the bell. Remember, YouTube doesn't believe you if you don't actually ring the old bell. Anyway, that's all we have for you today. God bless, and as always, shine on.